Our journey begins. It is day 119, September 27, 2024, and I wanted to give a progress update on the new language development that I've been working on. And I have a little notebook here. I'm going to be going through the items. So I've been going through the various components that I would like the language to have. And again, I'm not a language expert. This is just what I came up with based on some thinking process of what would an ultimate language, what would the components of an ultimate language be. So this is just like 15 of like the 50 that I have. So these 15, a lot of them depend on some of the other elements like the lexicon and syntax and stuff like that, which and the knowledge graph sort of network like structure. But they sort of tie all together, and if you can combine all of them into one simplistic form, that would be awesome. So starting out with hierarchy and recursion, the ability for humans to think and to express themselves with that level of context, with that level of expressing ideas hierarchically and with recursion. So I think this would come down to essentially creating mental models that people would share. So the mental models would be almost part of the language, that when you share a mental model, then you fill out the context. It gives the person, because, and this is just the way that I thought about it, like if you, like people often have the ability to like memorize entire city layouts. So the brain is, it's possible for the brain to process things on that sort of level if they can have the spatial sort of cognition to place things in the correct model. And so that's what I think we could do with language. And I think we do that already to some extent. Then I was looking into the expressive power of language. What makes languages really expressive with the ability to express things clearly? And this basically just ties into all the other aspects, like being able to express your emotional state, which is actually the next thing that I looked into. How would you embed the ability to express your emotional state at a really deep level? And would we want to? I don't know. It seems like humanity should, though, because that's again how you're going to bridge the gap between AI that doesn't have quite the same bandwidth of emotions as humans do. And so being able to express that on a common plane, being able to actually express your emotions properly, is something that I don't think language has necessarily excelled at thus far. Then it goes to like theory of mind, the ability to sort of have a theory of mind. And at the moment, I'm not exactly sure what all I looked into when I was looking into that. But that was one thing that I looked into. Then I looked into philosophical depth. It's just how would you create the ability to truly express philosophical concepts at a level that holds a lot of contextual information and at a level that sort of shares those mental models. And I think again that sort of ties into having a depth of affixes, the ability to express ideas in relation to the whole and being able to present mental models. Then I was looking into creating the language that supports coordination. What exactly makes a language such that it's more coordinating than another language? And again, this is what language mostly is for. This is why people say that language is humanity's greatest invention, because it allows humans to coordinate. And that's why other animal species don't really have that ability, and so they haven't been able to progress quite as far in certain domains. And so I was looking into, okay, how exactly would you do that? And you'd have to have all of the language components for coordination, basically, and then structure the language in a way where you're thinking about things at a level of coordination. Then I was looking into elements from the Dispossessed book by Ursula Le Guin, which I haven't finished yet, but in that book they talk about various things like assigning names to everyone, where each person gets a unique name based on like 5 letters or whatever. So that concept right there is basically a self-organizing principle. I don't think it was down to the level of syllables, which is why some of the names didn't sound as regular, like Shevek is totally fine, but is perhaps not quite as easy of a name to pronounce. Yeah, but anyway, basically it's like, and the main thing with that is that they talk about decency. and about certain terminology changing. Like instead of saying it's his book, it's like the book that he happens to be using at the moment or something. Basically, you're framing it away from a capitalistic and possessive nature. And again, I don't know exactly how that's going to work out. As you can see, language is something that's almost political in nature as well. I mean, yeah, it pretty much always will be, likely. Then I looked into elements from the Culture series, the marine language that they have in the Culture series by Ian M. Banks. Basically going over like the sophistication, the simplicity, the ability to express a range of emotions, and to have that ability to express between humans and AIs, essentially. So I was looking into various elements with that. And again, I'm just saying various elements with all of these things. I did go through and think through, but it would take as long as it took me to go through all of these to express that. And I was going through all of these for hours. So then I was looking into how could you ensure clarity, avoid misunderstandings. And I think that comes down a little bit to the idea of quantum entanglement, where you have multiple running possibilities, but then you sort of have a collapsing at the end, where all possible probabilities collapse into one most likely probability. And so what the meaning that you're trying to express is utterly clear then, because all other because like it literally collapsed. And I know I'm probably messing up the analogies there, but I think that's the general concept there. Then I was looking into modular descriptions. How could you describe things modularly? And this is sort of related to like adjectives, adverbs, descriptions, sort of having a modular framework. And this comes down a lot to the structure of the language. So I was thinking about that. And I was getting into pattern recognition. And this is something that we already do with language. If you see a certain letters, like if you swap out the middle letters of a word, oftentimes you can still pretty much understand what the sentence is, because we look at the first and last letters and our brain sort of pattern recognitions that. And our brain does pattern recognition for all sorts of things, like facial recognition, shapes, other stuff like that. And I think being able to really, really take advantage of that is going to be very powerful. And that's where I think the mental models are going to come into place. And the symbology, which is the next thing that I got into, which was also related to the concept of how to express something as like an overall expression. And this is related to like art. If you watch art, I mean, if you look at a piece of art or something, you often have the ability to understand what's going on, even though it is a little bit subjective. You're not getting that level of detail of reading things in sequential order and whatnot. So I spent a while thinking through that, and essentially I was like, well, we don't have to keep the same symbols that we use now for letters. Like there's nothing, the letter B, and I might need to research this more, but the letter B doesn't necessarily look like a B. I think there are some letters that sort of relate to the sound that they make, or like the sort of image that they create. But for the most part, they're not. And so there's a lot of flexibility there, I think, with colors, patterns, contrast, a lot of stuff like that. And then while I was doing all of that, I was simultaneously using AI to develop a knowledge inventory. I started that yesterday and I've been working through it steadily. There's like 60 or so, like maybe 40 to 60 various components of all most important. Right now I have 180 of the most important languages in the world, or like the most interesting or whatever, various domains like music and math and science, and then your regular like German, Latin, French, everything else. And getting an inventory of the consonants that they have, the vowels that they have, the type of compounding word structure that they use, like other various elements, to get an inventory of all languages out there, which is something that I might not be doing had it not been for someone commenting on one of my videos saying you should really do that. So thank you for that. If you have any more feedback, I welcome it. I hope to address more of some of the feedback I've gotten in more detail, but I wanted to give an update it was very, very productive. Yeah, from about 1:45 to 4:45, I think. Yeah. So 3 hours, which isn't that long, but with AI, with the power of AI doing things simultaneously, you can think through a lot of stuff. So, all right. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow.